Now, this is my second box called the money box. It's not financial advice, but it was created for educational purposes. So let's kind of start off first with a little bit of what I call the law of attraction. People want money, they will do whatever it takes to get that money. So the love of money refers to the sin of greed. But in reality, we do not simply want the money, but we want what money brings us. So of course, we're working hard, they're paying us in money, we're exchanging the money to buy food, car, house. Money comes and goes. So don't stress about something temporary. The key here is to recognize that your work and your effort has value and you can generate money at any time. So the more you learn to manage, the more valuable your jobs become. So let's kind of start this a little bit back from the past. Let's go a little bit back towards the 3200 BCE, which was the start of the barter era, where people would exchange goods for other physical goods. So since the ancient times in Mesopotamia, we have been exchanging goods and services with ourselves. Our ancestors quickly learned to work together and have structure. Tribes needed to diversify and expand their skills within their communities, and some started farming and others cattle ranching, while others fished and hunted. The diversification of each one did not stop there. After all, as humans, we have achieved a lot, especially when we work as teams. Some of the ancient sculptures were accounting records between farmers and fishermen. Bartering could only be effective in small groups that had a lot of trust among themselves. So eventually, we needed another medium of exchange that was more efficient in the transfer of value between others that didn't necessarily have to trust each other. After all, seashells, tulips, and animal horns failed as a medium of exchange, so we had to use scarce resources such as silver or gold. And due to the scarce nature of gold, we slowly adopted it as a store of value. This allowed us to preserve wealth from one generation to the next. To this day, gold still has a lot of value because we continue to use it as a store of value, jewelry, welding, and in other technology. Of course, Fort Knox houses, or at least they say they house, about $147.3 million worth of gold. And the government says it has a bullion book value of 6.22 billion, whatever that means. And then right here we have what we call the gold standard. This was when you were able to exchange directly your gold with fiat currency. On April 5th, 1933, President Roosevelt ordered the confiscation of gold and any denomination of gold. And by the time of June 5th, 1933, President Roosevelt also declares gold's backing of the dollar no longer valid. This means that this was no longer able to as of these dates. So now we're stuck with what we call fiat money or cash. Given that gold and silver are no longer widely acceptable forms of payment, you will most likely need cash to pay for goods or services. Here in the United States, the dollar is the national currency, and there are smaller denominations in the form of quarters, dimes, and other coins. Cash transactions can be settled immediately because of the trust we have placed in it since its inception. However, to prevent counterfeiting, most merchants prefer smaller denominations cash transactions, usually with bills under $100 or $20, while other merchants may require payments to be settled in money orders or checks for this reason. The dollar has been very consistent in terms of medium of exchange and recognized around the world due to its reputation as the global reserve currency thus far. The pros and cons of a credit based system. When we're talking about fiat money, we're talking about debt. So when some things cost a lot of money or a lot of work need to be done alone, it may be a good idea to call a friend to lend you a hand or a family member who can lend you some money. When you lend money from a business or a bank, you have to sign and read contracts with terms and conditions. The more you can show the lender you put good on time payments and are consistent, you can improve your credit with time. The bad thing comes when you don't pay on time and are penalized with fees and interest. The problem with easy money is using the money printer. By eliminating gold as a standard, This gave central banks permission to print more dollars and issue more debt in the form of credit cards, car loans, student loans, mortgages. I realized that by manipulating the cash supply, it also manipulates the prices in the markets. Each election cycle, a different politician runs the money printer a little differently to fit their position. Quantitative easing is known as central banks when they buy government bonds or other financial assets at scale to inject and increase the money supply into the economy. So, as you can tell, inflation hasn't necessarily had a good reputation since its inception because we get to what we can call now, this is what people don't want to go to, but we call hyperinflation. The US dollar has suffered a massive devaluation for decades and has yet to recover since its early days. And we usually say it's normal and okay because we can still go to the grocery store and exchange money for goods and services. But the dollar has been saved from hyperinflation. The dollar is being inflated, just not hyperinflated. The same tragedies as other fiat currencies in other countries, such as Turkey or Germany. Countries such as Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Greece, Argentina, they've also suffered negative effects of hyperinflation, where the currency virtually loses its value. People just don't want to use it, it becomes worthless. So the Federal Reserve has a very important job, and that's to control interest rates and prime rates. The Federal Reserve is responsible for keeping track of all the gold and therefore responsible for controlling inflation in the United States and the world economy. Every time the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, it is because they need to deflate the cash supply by forcing each dollar borrower to pay more in interest and reduce the overall debt. So the higher the interest rate, the more panic there is about inflation to bring it down. So how do we escape the inflation rate? It is widely understood that inflation reduces our purchasing power, and therefore saving money in a savings account or retirement account is necessary because we need to preserve and increase our wealth. There are many options for parking your money, for example, under your mattress, or you can put it in a deposit, savings account, government bond, stock exchange, or reputable companies, or other different methods, such as a life insurance or retirement plans. But the plan here is escape the hurdle. Commodities. So, a lot of things that people invest in are commodities. Things like cattle, oil, wheat, soybeans, corn, you name it. Very easy to understand, not that difficult. We all know what it is, what it's used for, and this is also gets traded in the markets. So that has part of this is also why I'm talking about this is because this is very important for the next points I'm going to come up with. Another thing that people use their money into are securities. And these are examples of security investment contracts issued by different companies. So you have things like IRAs, 401ks, life insurance, stocks, and these are things that you sign a contract, and that's part of what you're buying. Is you're putting your money into this contract in a way. So some people ask themselves, should I put my money in a commodity or should I invest it in the stock market? So here's a couple of things that we have to understand is what makes a commodity and what makes a security. So the Howey test refers to the US Supreme Court case to determine whether a transaction qualifies as an investment contract and would therefore be considered a security and subject to disclosure and registration requirements under the Securities Act of 1933 and the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. Under the Howey test, an investment contract exists if there is an investment of money in a common enterprise with a reasonable expectation of profits to be derived from the efforts of others. On a commodity, however, is a basic good used in commerce that is interchangeable with other goods of the same type. Commodities are often used as inputs in the production of other goods or services. Therefore, a commodity convenience generally refers to a raw material used to manufacture finished products. A product, on the other hand, is the finished good sold to consumers. So we have something very philosophical here when it comes down to where should I put my money, if not one place or the other. Well, this gets very philosophical between the Austrian economics and the Keynesian economics. Keynesian economics believe in government intervention in regulating the market prices. The Austrian economist believes the opposite. There should be zero government intervention in marketplaces. Austrian economists believe that mathematical models can provide solutions to all economic problems. And here's a couple stark differences, right? With Keynesian economics, you want a central government printing the money, dictating which money goes to where. The more they print, it creates more inflation. Whereas Austrian economics believe more of a sound money type system where people earn their money that they need to earn and it doesn't get devalued. And if companies that go bankrupt, they don't get bailed out, they lose, and they're supposed to go through the pain of failure, basically. And so they don't get bailed out. There's a lot going on here, of course. If you want to take some time to read it yourself, go for it. The more you learn, the more you earn at the end of the day. But I'm going to go on to my next steps. So, a few books that I would highly recommend, of course, would be Original Rich Dad Poor Dad, in case you don't understand what money is or how it works or why the dollar isn't the currency you think it is. 4 Hour Work Week, Learn to be an Entrepreneur, Sovereign Individual, Understand Sound Money, and the Fiat Standard. Basically, just tells you, summarizes why the dollar is basically a debt slave system. And with that, we talk about now our banks. So, having a bank account gives us access to financial services such as checking accounts, investments, securities, credit cards, loans. Banks allow us to store our money safely without having to worry about theft or counterfeiting. FDIC insured banks generally have about $250,000 of insurance per customer for any principal interest in the event of loss or theft. Customer service can help customers 24/7 whenever they need help with a lost or stolen card and help them budget their income and expenses. Debit and credit cards add security to transactions of large amounts. Some banks will even stop a transaction if they suspect fraud. All banks must go through this rigorous audits and KYC AML regulations to operate successfully in the United States. This has made them reputable, sustainable, and reliable. Transactions that are digital and the next um, payment rails. So, network companies like Discover, Visa, MasterCard, American Express leverage other banks and new technology to help process up to 62,000 transactions per second. It is currently the fastest and safest way to exchange money at the moment. PayPal, Zelle, and Cash App have created another way to send money online using cashless payment options. This is the start of a new age of digital cash or online settlement payments. The demand for online and contactless payments has grown dramatically. Personally, I think it's very convenient as well. So now that we're getting to the digital money, we do have to talk about something very interesting, very niche, very nuanced to the markets. Although at this point, I guess it's not too new, but it's new enough so that many people don't know what it is and they might be getting into an opportunity to understand what it is. So I'm talking about cryptocurrencies specifically, Bitcoin more interestingly. Now, of course, I can go into another video and explain why that is and why I'm more bullish on Bitcoin than any other cryptocurrency, but I'll make that into a separate video another day. Important thing here is I just need to focus on the top asset, the one with the highest market cap, and the one with the absolute scarcity, which means that there will never be anything more of it, creating a lot of value. So I'm talking, yes, Bitcoin, understanding Bitcoin. What is this? Why is it different? And why is this innovation going to change the world? In my opinion, of course. I could be wrong, but this will be my opinion. And one of the things I love to understand about Bitcoin and why it makes it different is how it was created and why it's being used for. So Bitcoin was created with the purpose of changing how we see and handle money. You don't need to trust a bank to hold the cash, the FDIC to hold the reserve, or the government to hold the gold and commodities. Bitcoin lets you control your money with verifications based on math and mechanical energy. Anyone who has Anyone who already has Bitcoin can pay anyone who can create a free digital wallet through the Bitcoin network. It's as easy as making and handling an email. Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency at the moment recognized as a commodity compared to the other 99% of cryptocurrencies mentioned that have legal regulatory problems with the SEC because they have structures very similar to a company with a CEO. They may be able to get ahead if they register as a security with the SEC or restructure their crypto token. So, how does Bitcoin work? Bitcoin transactions only need three confirmations to settle a payment. That usually takes less than 10 minutes to complete. Every Bitcoin transaction is saved and posted to the blockchain ledger, and as long as a fee is paid to the miner, and the transaction cannot be stopped or reversed afterwards. This makes it a final settlement that cannot be reversed. So once you have it, it's yours. Nobody can take it away. Bitcoin is pseudonymous because we only know the address where the Bitcoin was sent from and from the use of blockchain, but we do not necessarily know the identity of the user connected to that wallet address. Bitcoin is the base layer, but there have also been some sort of soft forks, such as SegWit, Taproot, and Lightning, that are like separate sidechain updates to scale the number of transactions, and that is still currently being worked on. So, what makes Bitcoin absolutely scarce and creating its value that's going to make people's eyes pop out when they see the skyrocketing prices is because of this. Now, of course, there's a lot of other factors, but this is being one of the principal ones. So there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, nothing more and nothing less. This means that Bitcoin is absolutely scarce. Compared to gold, it is relatively scarce because people are still mining gold and finding new ways to make more gold, which causes a small rate of inflation and price manipulation. Bitcoin is secured through encryption and computer hashing power to prevent hacking. Bitcoin achieves trust better than gold by allowing a decentralized network of computers to mine Bitcoin, allowing transactions to be recorded on an immutable blockchain ledger. The price of Bitcoin according to some retirement finance experts. So here is the CEO of Fidelity, Jurrien Timmer, saying that the supply curve is best described by the stock to flow model originated by 100 trillion USD on Twitter. The higher the stock to flow, the higher the valuation. From what I understand, the stock to flow model is basically a power regression between Bitcoin's price and its inflation rate. Pretty interesting coming from our retirement funds. Bitcoin mining. Similar to gold mining, the Bitcoin protocol allows anyone with a computer and special mining equipment, such as an ASIC miner, to earn Bitcoin while using the power connected from the computer to the Bitcoin Core network. Mining computers solve sophisticated math problems that require power to run. The miner or node that successfully solves the problem will add transactions to the blockchain and earn Bitcoin. Since the Bitcoin protocol runs natively on the internet, this means that it can run anywhere in the world. The Bitcoin protocol gives anyone a fair chance to own some Bitcoin. Bitcoin hashing, known as SHA-256, serves as proof of work to prevent spammers, hackers, or malicious coders from undermining the Bitcoin network. This also helps with a 50% attack on the network. Very secure. Bitcoin's energy usage. The power that generates electricity in our homes usually comes from a central source, such as a power plant, but there are also many ways to create energy. For example, we can use solar energy, hydroelectric, wind energy, natural gas, and nuclear. The key here is Bitcoin requires energy to function, but miners won't make much money in places of high energy demand, which encourages the use of energy that would have otherwise been wasted, sold cheap, or given away for free. And we have a major player here, Exxon, and they're mining Bitcoin in North Dakota as part of a plan to slash emissions. Talk about ESG friendly. And if you want to take custody of your Bitcoin, you have a few several methods. You can put it in a cold storage wallet, which I highly recommend. to have the best security because they can keep your Bitcoin offline and your cryptocurrencies away from potential hackers, scammers, and thieves. The Ledger and Trezor branded wallets offer a level of security where even if you lose the device, you can quickly access your cryptocurrency as long as you have access to a 12 to 24 word seed. This means that you can retire your cryptocurrency from any hot or cold wallet as long as you can remember the initial phrases. And remember something very important, not your keys, not your coins. Which means if you don't have those 12 to 24 word seed phrases that created your wallet, then it's not your money because you can always log into another wallet with those keys and bam. Authoritarian or rogue governments can seize your home, such as eminent domain, your car, your phone, and even the devices that store your Bitcoin. But if they don't have access to the initial keys, then they don't have anything at all. The Lightning Network. It is a second layer solution to the Bitcoin network that helps scale the number of transactions on the blockchain. Twitter, or X now, implements the function of sending Bitcoin as a tip, and Cash App integrates Lightning in its tips function as well. The key here is that the easier it feels to use Bitcoin, the faster it can be adopted. And the faster it can be adopted, again, that pushes the price up. Bitcoin becomes legal tender in El Salvador. Yes, El Salvador became the first country to adopt it as legal tender back in 2021 and has been since using it as legal tender. You can go to Bitcoin Beach in El Zonte, where you have some of the earliest pioneers in this Bitcoin area where they started exchanging food and money, anything for Bitcoin. They get it, they understand the mission. And I would highly recommend learning the Bitcoin standard, the bullish case for Bitcoin, understanding and mastering Bitcoin, and the software with Jason Laurie. So that's kind of my way of thinking outside the box. That's my solution to what's kind of going on with the world in regards to money. Of course, at the end of the day, I could always accept any kind of feedback. So I appreciate you watching my video and you enjoy the rest of your day.